Well, I thought about this quite a bit, and I thought that since Sherry was having an interesting menu for Thanksgiving, that I would tell you the story of some of my pets. And I've always had a pet. Sam mentioned in his interview in there that the tomcat was hollering when the wedding ceremony was going on. Well, that was typical of my cat. She didn't want to stay outdoors. Uh, when we got home from our honeymoon, the next morning, Sam took me down to the corral, and he had two beautiful young cows there, two heifers. And he says, "These are your wedding present." And I said, "Oh, they're so pretty. I'll just call them Pretty." And he says, "Well, what are you going to call the other one?" And I says, "Well, I'll call her Pretty's partner." And so I had these two heifers. He says, "They're not very tame yet. They haven't been in the lot very long, and they're not used to people, so don't go in there with them." Well, 1 week later, I had them eating cake out of my hands. I'd go down every morning and try to coax them to come to me, hold a piece of cow cake out for them, and they would finally come to me, and they were pets by the time I'd owned them for a week. And later on, I had those two heifers for quite a long time, and one of them died. And it was Pretty's partner that died. And we went over and we found Pretty with two calves nursing her. And Sam says, "Something's wrong." And he went, looked a little further, and he found Pretty was dead. And Pretty's partner had adopted the calf right off. That's quite unusual. And I had a pet billy goat. I don't remember too much about that billy goat except that it was curly, and I bathed it and ridded it pink and tied a red ribbon around its neck. And I had all kinds of pets. We decided we'd raise turkeys, and the old turkey hatched 12 little turkeys. And we were trying to take particularly good care of them, and we put them in a box and covered them up with a tarp at night. While they were young, well, a rat crawled up that tarp and killed all of them but one. And he thought he'd killed it because he took the skin off the top of its head. And that became Turkey Baby, and he was my pet. And he stood by the back door, and every time you opened the door, you gave Turkey Baby a bite of something to eat. He was always hungry. We had him for Christmas dinner down at my mother's. I didn't like him too well, because I could remember him being Turkey Baby so much. And I had two sheep. Sam gave me a couple of dogie sheep, and he got tired of milking the cow and feeding the milk to them, and so he taught them to nurse the cow. And we had this old cow she was so good, she would just take anything. And at that time, little bull calves at the dairy, nobody wanted them. And so they killed them or gave them away. And so I went out to the dairy and got me 4 little calves and put them on this cow. And later on, when I sold them, I had enough money to buy a nice chair for the house. And I also had a goose for a pet. And Sam was driving the milk cow, whose name was Goofus, into the corral one night, and she just didn't want to go for some reason. And he picked up this 2x4. It was about 6 or 7 inches long, and threw it at the cow. Well, it hit my goose right in the back of the head. He lay down and died. Well, Sam says, "We'll have to eat him." And I said, "I can't dress him. I can't eat him. I don't want anything to do with it." And I kept crying, and he says, "Well, I'll do it." And so he scalded the goose, got a tub, and took it into the kitchen, and he sat down by that tub and was picking the feathers off of the goose. Well, goose feathers are sort of like air. They rise and float. And I had a cat. And the kitty cat saw the feathers rising in the tub. And so she jumped into the tub. And the feathers went up like an atomic bomb. There were goose feathers in our house for 6 months. You couldn't sweep them out. They don't sweep, they float. And we had goose feathers everywhere for a long time. And I thought that was a good story for this Christmas. I thought of something else I was going to tell you, but now I don't remember what it was.
Any stories about Gaka?
I always had a Siamese cat after Sam bought me one. He said he would live to regret it, but he bought me a Siamese cat pretty soon after we married. I didn't take my kitty from the valley up there, and so he bought me this Siamese cat. And one of my favorite teachers at college, a Miss Corcoran, had been born in Thailand, where her folks were missionaries, and she had a Siamese cat. And her Siamese cat was named Wiki Woo. And so I named my first Siamese cat Wiki Woo. We had Wiki Woo for years and years and years. And then when we lost Wiki Woo, I had another Siamese cat. And that kitty, we decided we would get a purebred tomcat. So we got a purebred tomcat up at Denver, and we called him Rags. And that kitty had 6 kittens with a purebred male. And then we gave Mrs. Midkiff one of those kitties. And when we came down to Lamar, we brought 2 of them with us. And one of them got run over. And we had the other one for quite a long while. But then something happened to it, I don't remember what. And Ms. Midkiff gave me a little kitty that was one of the babies that her cat that I had given her had. And we brought that cat back with us from Midland after Christmas down there. And it hollered a bunch. And Sam said, I wish that we'd get rid of that cat. Says, I don't like to listen to it holler all the time. Says, it's not worth 2 cents. And so that kitty came to be named 2 cents. And we had 2 cents for a long time. And I don't remember what happened to 2 cents. But the next kitty we had, I said, I'm going back to the first one because the first Siamese cat had kittens. And I heard the kitty crying really loud one day. And I went to see in the bathroom what was the matter with the kitty. And Monty had put it in the stool, and he was sitting on the lid. He was about 2. And he says, I'm giving Gaka a drink. That was what he called cats. And so when I got the last kitty I had, I said, this is full circle. We'll have to call this kitty Gaka. And I had Gaka. She was the neighbor's kitty over here. And she was born down in the basement. And they didn't take the kitties out. And so she was kind of wild when I got her. She was just a little bitty thing. And she cried all the time. And so I carried her around in my apron pocket for, a couple of weeks after I got her. Everywhere I went, I wore that apron that had the big pocket, and the cat was in it. And we taught Gaka to lead on a leash, and we took her to Texas with us. We took her into restaurants. I had a big straw purse, and I would put her inside of that and take her into a restaurant with me when we stopped. And I had Gaka for 22 years. And when she died, I said I was never going to have another kitty because they were too much trouble. And I bought this little kitty over here on the couch to take Gakai's place, and that's the only kitty I have now. And that's lots of pets, and that's enough story.
Okay, great, thank you.
How long did that last?
Oh, that was about 15 minutes.
That's enough.
Great.
Well, Yang Yang, the little fox, jumped up on the table and got the quarter-pound of butter and ran in the kitchen and jumped up on the cabinet, went through the sink, the dishwater in the sink, and then across the two cakes that I had cooling by the side of it, jumped down off and ran in the bedroom and got under the bed with a cube of butter in his mouth. But that was Sam's pet.